So before we get too far in the video, I have to tell you, no, make that I have to warn you. I'm going to do something that violates the rules of common sense and will make you question my ability to not only read, but more importantly, my ability to make good choices. So if you want to see me make some absolutely terrible choices about this mower, then stick around. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? So in today's video, we're going to be looking at this eco-branded battery electric lawnmower. And the problem is that it's been used for the last several years and it's never had any kind of maintenance work done to it. So you might be asking yourself, what kind of maintenance work am I talking about? It's an electric lawnmower. It doesn't need any. And if that's what you're saying to yourself right now, you might want to read the owner's manual. Now, I'm going to try and repair this lawnmower, but yours might be different, so this might not work on yours. So if things are not working out for you, like in the video, please ask about it, and I'll be glad to answer your questions. So as with any lawnmower, you're still going to have to treat it like a lawnmower, and the one thing that you need to do to it is to sharpen the blade. But there will be a big surprise waiting for us when we get to that part of the repair, and I know I certainly wasn't ready for it. But before we do anything, I want you to hear what it sounds like, so let's start it up and listen to what the future sounds like. Yep, that pretty much sounds like a 700-watt fan spinning in a plastic tub. Now, I do not want to discourage anyone from getting one of these. If you don't want to mess with oil and gasoline, well, I can't blame you. I do think battery equipment works great for some consumers, but for a good portion of them though, it's not all that's cracked up to be. Now, the surprise I was talking about has to do with the blade and specifically its cutting edge. After laying the mower on its side, I checked out the condition of the blade and turns out it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Also, come to find out, this mower is quite happy running while it's on its side, which is kind of disturbing. Of course, if this mower happens to roll over while being used on a hillside, I would hope the user would let go of the handle and that would stop it from running, so it's really not a big deal. So there are a couple of huge benefits to working on a battery mower, and that is not having to worry about spilling oil or gasoline. What that means is that you can put the mower standing straight up on its end, making it 100 times easier to work on. And if you didn't know it, this is also a great way to store the mower because it'll reduce its footprint in the garage or a shed. And even though the bolt for the blade is only about a foot higher than it was when it was on its side, this is a whole lot more comfortable on your back. So I probably should have mentioned this a whole lot sooner, but when you're working on a mower like we are right now, it's probably a good idea to take out that extremely expensive battery. That way, there's no way to energize the motor and also get rid of a potential shock and fire hazard as well. Now, there are very specific instructions in the manual on how to store this battery when you're not using it, so be sure you know what they are, otherwise you're going to find out just how expensive this battery is to replace. Now the next part is very important, and I hate to admit it, but it's even more important to an electric mower than it is to a gasoline one. What we need to do is to make sure that the blade is well balanced, otherwise the electric motor will not last very long, and I don't think I need to explain why. But for those of you who are still not sure why, it's an issue of build quality, and even though some of the newer gasoline engines are not that great, they'll still take a hit a whole lot better than the electric one will. So here's a better look at the cutting edge of the blade, and what's so surprising about it is that it's not as rounded as I thought it was going to be considering the mower is several years old. And to be honest, if this blade was going to go on a gasoline mower, I'd be okay to put it back on the way that it is. So why do you think that after 7 years of use, the blade looks as good as it does? So I do have a theory about that, but I don't think a lot of you are going to like it. So basically, it's because the electric motor is so underpowered compared to a gasoline one. Now, I'm not going to make any claims, but if I had to guess, I'd say this motor is not very powerful. And because of the lack of power from the electric motor, it's not subject to the same kind of damage that it would be even when attached to a 3.5 horsepower engine. Like I said, I don't have any data to prove it, it's just my guess. But if you have a better reason as to why this blade still has some kind of an edge on it, I'd like to hear it. Also, be sure that you put the blade back on the mower in the correct direction, otherwise there'll be no point in sharpening it if the dull part of the blade is the one that's going to be doing the work. So is making sure that the blade is sharp the only maintenance that needs to be done to this mower? Not really, there are a lot of other items that we need to look over, like making sure that the wheels are spinning well, and if they're not, we'll have to do something about it. Now, despite these wheels being equipped with bearings, which is a very nice touch, according to the owner's manual, they'll need to be lubricated once in a while along with several other places. The reason why is because doing this will help to keep them working for as long as possible. So here's the part of the video that a lot of people may have a problem with. Now, besides keeping the wheels lubricated and the blade sharp, the manual doesn't say much about how to clean the mower, only that you should not use a garden hose on it. It's interesting because the rating on the back of the mower says it's an IPX4, which if you look it up says it's protected against water splashes from all direction and some water ingress is permitted. Basically, you can get it wet in the rain, but you can't use a garden hose on it. So I'm still a bit unsure how this mower is supposed to be used by consumers, who will more than likely at some point leave it outside in the elements, but I guess that might have been the whole point to begin with. So the manual says that after cleaning and lubricating the mower, you should then store it in a dry and clean location, and it makes no mention about outside storage. That means if you've been keeping your mowers outside year after year, there's a good chance you're going to do the same with this one too. Now, will it hurt to keep this mower outside? Well, just so long as it's not exposed to long periods of rainfall or high humidity levels, sure, why not? But I have to imagine that after the first or second year of less than ideal storage conditions, it's going to take a toll on the electronics. So how do you get around the idea that it's going to get wet sometimes, whether you're the one spraying it down or you accidentally leave it outside and it gets rained on? Simple, dry it off as soon as possible. Now, once you realize that the mower has gotten wet, take it over to a dry location and get out your leaf blower and try to get rid of as much water as possible. And the most important area to try and get dry would be the area where the battery sits. But if you don't want to do that, put it in a spot in the yard where the sun can reach it and let it dry out for at least a day or two. Now, for this particular cleaning, it was a very warm and sunny day, so I chose to use the second option out of convenience. I would also definitely not try to use the mower until it was dry, but I'll leave that up to you. Now, if you don't want to wash your electric mower, I can completely understand your hesitation, but the least you can do is to make sure that the battery area is clean of any debris, which is something I already did with this one. And if you want to, you can also flip the mower upside down for a while and let any water drain from it. That's something that I had to do later on with this one once I realized I had some water trapped in certain spots. The last thing we need to do is install the fully charged battery into the mower and make sure we didn't ruin the mower. Now, once the battery is back in the mower, the lights were working, which is a great sign, which means next we'll try and start it up. So it looks like it's working just fine, despite using a low pressure sprayer to wash it, but I can understand why you don't want to use a garden hose. The hose would deliver too much water, and depending upon what kind of nozzle you were using, it could be too much for certain parts of the mower. The other option would have been to cover the battery section with a plastic bag, that way no water could get to the electronics. Otherwise, keeping the water spray from the battery section is also highly recommended. Now, for those of you who might be asking if I sprayed water on the underside of the mower, the answer is I did not. And the reason why is because the chance of getting water to the electric motor was too high, so I didn't even bother with it. Now, I did make sure that I cleaned up any clumped up grass from the underside of the mower to keep it working well. So what do I think about this mower then? Well, all in all, this mower is really easy to use, super quiet in comparison to a gasoline one. So it does have enough power for me to use it on the front lawn and the backyard and have a little bit left over for the next time. However, I find it to be a little overpriced and could get a better performing gasoline mower for a lot less. And besides that, I can still find parts for a gasoline machine so I can fix it when something breaks on it. Unfortunately, these mowers seem to be disposable, meaning once they break or need parts, they want you to throw it away and buy a new one, which doesn't sound very environmentally friendly to me. So my question is, would you ever buy one of these battery electric mowers? Personally, only if it was really cheap. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or about your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.